Okay, thought for the day. My thought, we'll call it life on the edge. So, we hear that expression, we think it means about high-risk behavior, somehow living dangerously. But the truth is, the edge is are the places where the opposites meet. Fear meets courage, and suffering meets freedom. It's the place where peril maybe meets possibility, where crisis meets opportunity. They have this kind of notion where they say that, a mistaken notion, that the Chinese symbol for crisis is really danger and opportunity, which is actually not correct. It apparently means a crucial point, this one place where something can begin, something can be born, and change can happen. There's a poem that I ran across the other day, and it ends like this. "Come to the edge," he said. "We can't, we're afraid," they said. "Come to the edge," he said. "We can't, we will fall," they said. "Come to the edge," he said. And so they came, and he pushed them, and they flew. So somehow we're all in a crisis. That's part of our human situation. But how can we be curious about that crisis moment? How can we let it be this crucial moment where suddenly we are invited into this spacious, expansive place, into a brand new landscape? So I knew a woman who had 4 kids, 3 boys and a girl, and the oldest son was a gang member who worked here, and the second son was a Marine. And one night he was home on leave. He went out for a midnight run to Jack in the Box, and he brings the food home, and his mom can hear from her bedroom conversation, voices outside. It's gang members hitting him up. "Where are you from?" She thinks that she hears him say, "The Marines." And the shooting begins, and she runs outside, and he dies in her arms. Well, this began a period of grief that just toppled her. She stopped going to work. She would rarely bathe. She never took off these black clothes. She wasn't just grieving a death. She was toppled by it. About 3 months after this death, her older son, the gang member, on a Sunday morning said, "Look, you have to stop this. You have 3 other kids and we need you. So I want you to go into that room. I want you to take a bath. I want you to throw these clothes away. I want you to put makeup on." And she listened to him. And she emerged from the room, and he cups her face with his hands and says, "You look gorgeous." 4 hours later, the same Sunday, he's on the front porch eating a sandwich, and he sees this kid, this teenager, running down the street. He's a guy who belongs to his gang. He's being chased by 2 enemies, rivals who have guns. And so he moves quickly to get to the door, to get inside the house, but it's not quick enough. And the shots are fired, and he dies in his mom's arms on the front porch. It was a Sunday, so I had a lot of masses, and by the time I got there, she was sitting on a couch, and forget Kleenex and forget handkerchief, she was sobbing into a bath towel, and my arms were too short to reach around. My arms were too short to reach around her pain. Several months later, I see her on First Street, and we hug each other, and I say, "How you doing, kiddo?" And she thinks for a moment, and she says, "I love my 2 kids who remain, and I feel hurt for the 2 who are gone." And then her eyes fill up with tears, and she says, "The hurt wins. The hurt wins." Well, a handful of months later, I hear she's in the hospital, and she has kind of an irregular heartbeat, nothing serious, but they're doing tests. So I go visit her. And when I walk into her hospital room, her spirit is light, and she's anxious to tell me this story. She says that the day before, when she came to the hospital, she's taken to the emergency room, she's on a gurney, 2 doctors are attending to her. When suddenly the paramedics come in, and they have a 15-year-old boy on a gurney, and he's been shot many times. And the doctors leave her and attend to him, and they're ripping off his clothes, and they're pounding on his chest, and they're screaming, "We're losing him, we're losing him." And she turns and she looks and she recognizes this kid as a member of the gang that most certainly killed her 2 sons. And she says, I keep thinking about maybe what my friends would have said. Maybe they would have said, "Pray that he dies." But I didn't. And she starts to cry. She says, "I prayed the hardest I've ever prayed in my life. Please don't let him die. I don't want any mother to go through what I went through." And he lived. And it only seems like the hurt wins. Every one of us is in a moment of crisis, because welcome to the human situation. But life on the edge is where opposites meet, where fear meets courage and courage wins, where suffering meets freedom and freedom wins, where peril meets opportunity and opportunity wins, where crisis meets possibility and suddenly we're curious about life on the edge. Come to the edge, he said. And so they came, and he pushed them, and they flew.